For people that don't build SEMA vehicles, the term SEMA done is something that we are all way too familiar with.
Yeah. It was, I mean, as a young shop owner, it was a great opportunity, but it was also not a great decision. I mean, it got us a ton of exposure. That truck was huge. But it was all over the place, but it was very rushed. I don't think the quality suffered, but we never took the time to dial it in, I guess, in the end. But it had a presence for sure and probably put us on the map. Those two trucks with the crazy engine bay sheet metal definitely opened up a lot of people's eyes to what we could do.
All right, guys, we're back with another Modified Rides podcast. Those on YouTube can tell I'm back in the office. Today, I have someone that's actually helping out with this year's SEMA build. I have Josh Hart with Hart Fab. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? What's up?
So Josh made the firewall shave panels. I guess that's what you call them, right? The
Yeah,
shave.
yeah.
And the front inner tubs for my Blazer. I'd say he's probably one of the premier sheet metal inner fender guys in the truck scene. Do you do cars or just trucks?
We just do production parts for trucks. Yeah. Just everything from 55 to 98 right now.
Okay. So you handle all the OBS stuff as well, then.
Yeah, we have a couple versions of OBS. We don't have what everybody wants for the OBS yet, but everybody wants the static drop, like 5.7 drop version. We have some extreme stuff for like the body trucks, but nothing for like the 5.7, Stone Fab coilover guys yet. But
yeah,
we're working on it.
So before we get into what you currently do, I guess we need to step back like I always do and figure out who Josh Hart is and how you got into custom vehicles, because you've had a little bit of tie to the industry. So
a little bit, yeah. I mean, I've been in the industry for probably 22 years, 25 years or so. Got the bug from my dad. My dad was in the cars. He was like a dealership tech and then ran a service center. He tried to keep me out of it, which was probably a better idea than doing what I'm doing now. Always hung around kids in high school that were older than me that had cars. When I was 14, got an S Blazer. I wanted a lifted truck. My dad came home with a lowered S Blazer, 90 S10 Blazer, and we built that. Or mainly he did, but I was there, helped and did that. And that was my first ride when I was 16. So I had a mini truck when I was 16. We started doing car shows and stuff, and ended up going to like Good Guys Columbus and Hot Rod Super Nationals in Canfield and a lot of more hot rod related shows.
Now, is that in your area? Like, you're in Pennsylvania. Have you always been in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I've always been in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Where I'm at now is about an hour and a half south of where I grew up at. So we're about 20 minutes north of Pittsburgh. I grew up in a town called Oil City, where like Quaker State was founded. Pennzoil was founded. I grew up a town up there. I actually moved here to start working for a shop after I graduated Wyotech. So graduated high school, went to Wyotech. Pretty much my goal was to be a car builder. I wanted to work for, Boyd Collington or Trepanier.
What made you want to build vehicles?
I think it was just like the expression, the creativity, maybe. I really don't know. I think it was just like, that's cool. I want to do it, basically. It wasn't like any one vehicle in particular. My dad was more a performance guy. He was an engine guy, rear end guy. He did more mechanical stuff. I was more into like just the looks, the customization, the sport trucks, that kind of deal. And I thought it was a cool job to just be able to build vehicles for a living.
Did you tinker around with building stuff like as a teenager on your S10 Blazer, or?
It was a little bit. I mean, it was more bolt on. I mean, it was dropped. It had the 5.7 drop, prime wheels on it, color matched, roll pan. It wasn't really like, I didn't get into like the heavy fab customizing stuff probably until the Wyotech days. So then when I went to Wyotech, I had a round S10. I had a square S10 in high school, and then at Wyotech, I had a round S10 extended cab. And I did like the Sir Michael's roll pan, the tail light shavers, shave the brake lights, shave the door handle, like everything you did in the early 2000s to build a mini truck, sport truck.
Were you
Um,
doing the welding and metal work then?
yeah, so on S10, I did all that stuff. Yeah, I did all the metal work on that stuff, and it was just you buy the store bought stuff, but you did that. But yeah, that was kind of one of the first things I really cut my teeth on, like the body customizing side of things. It was everything you did to a mini truck. S10s were huge in early 2000s, and I had to have one as well. So um, yeah, that's where I really cut my teeth on doing, I guess, the sheet metal work. It wasn't, and it really wasn't fab work. It wasn't. It was bag, but it wasn't like bodied or anything like that. So it was pretty basic. Yeah.
So that first little bit of metal work, is that how you, like you said, sparked your interest in? I was like, all right, I'm good with metal. Let's take it further.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah. I mean, I always went towards that. I always liked. I don't know why. I always went towards. I like the creativity. I think more than the mechanical engine stuff and everything like that. I guess that you could say that's what sparked it. It was just like the mini truck scene was so big. And again, I never got into the big like the. I guess I lived in an area where you had to travel to see basically anything. Um,
Same here.
so there wasn't a bunch of kids with shaved, lane rocker S10s. So yeah, I would say that's probably what started the metalwork side of it. I have the C10 I still have now. Like I did the rain gutters on it. Like it was just mild customization stuff, not heavy metal fab stuff. The heavy metal fab probably really didn't come until I actually got into a shop and got some experience there. But
So in high school, you knew with tinkering with your truck, and I'm sure a couple friends' trucks or whatever, that Wyotech was the best place for you to go to hone those skills.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was in that era. It was huge. I mean, it was Motorcycle Mania. That was Monster Garage. I mean, Wyotech was on every commercial. And I had actually went to Wyoming when I signed up for the school, and they ended up opening up one in the Pittsburgh area by the time I had graduated high school. So I went to the one in Pennsylvania, which was in like Blairsville like, area.
You
Um,
didn't deal with Casey Harding any, did you?
I did not. I don't think so. The name doesn't sound familiar now.
He was an instructor at Wyotech for a while. Now he teaches. I had him on the podcast recently. He's one of the OG mini trucker hoppers,
Okay.
but he teaches a high school class now in Wyoming about diesel stuff and
Okay.
fab stuff and all that in high school. But yeah, he was at Wyotech. I'd say about that time you were there, he was there
Okay.
teaching.
Yeah. I was. I don't. I mean, I was right at the end. If he was in Wyoming, I was in Pennsylvania. So I don't know if he was ever in Pennsylvania or not. I don't. I can't even remember. Brian Pierce was like the street rod coordinator guy. He was more of a custom guy, not a mini truck guy. There was a dude named Corey, I think, that was into like body drop stuff. He was an instructor there, but
Now,
um,
what did you take at Wyotech? Any certain course?
so I took everything. You have to take the base course. So I did the collision and finishing because I figured my interest is more into the bodywork side, and I actually suck at bodywork and do nothing with bodywork now. So that was my base course. I took upholstery, I took chassis and high performance engines, and the street rod course, which had the custom paint in it too. So I took everything except the diesel course and then the mechanical side of it. Um,
Now, is Wyotech still as big with the younger crowd now as it was when you went through?
no, I think it actually closed down because of the whole. I guess they were inflating their numbers, their employment numbers.
Really?
So they ended up having to pay a bunch of people back, and they closed down. I think they're still open in some capacity, the original one, but I think when like the big expansion happened, that company had to go under. So yeah,
Because I know I always bring up on some of the podcasts that some of today's kids, the high school kids, fresh out of high school kids, a lot of them aren't into cars.
no, they're not. I mean, I've had a couple guys from a local tech school here that came in, but they're not. It's a different type of into cars, I guess you could say. It's not the I had a guy that was more into the tuner stuff a little bit, but it was more the bolt on stuff. But yeah, it seems the kids are few and far between that are really into like the heavy customization stuff. It seems like.
Oh, I know. I was doing a photo shoot one time, and this kid pulled up. He was probably, I don't know, 17 to 19 or so. He pulled up and had a flat tire on his Forerunner, and he was like, "Man," he's like, "You got a spare tire?" And I'm like, "It don't work like that." But I was like, "You have one under the truck?" He's like, "Well, no, I don't. I don't have a spare." And I'm like, I'm looking at it. It's under the back of your car. Well, how do I get that out? Did I take the tire off and put the tire on this other wheel? And I was like, I lost all hope in kids at that point.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't seem like there's a lot. I mean, I know there's some that are. I mean, but I don't know if they have the same exposure to it that I did. Maybe I don't know. It's
Well,
but
with them canceling all the TV shows and stuff that we grew up watching, that was a
right.
typical Saturday and Sunday morning routine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a ton of influence on TV to get you into it, and I know I've worked with people that the Discovery shows, the Jesse James shows. I mean, that's what got them into it. And there's not a lot of that anymore.
So after you got out of Wyotech, what was your first adventure in the car world then?
So I had worked at a dealership all through high school. When I graduated Wyotech, I started working in the body shop at the dealership back where I lived at. That worked for about 3 months, and I didn't. I had enough of that. Uh, that wasn't for production body work. Wasn't for me. I ended up moving to the Pittsburgh area, or Warrendale, to work for a shop that was called RPM. Um, that I worked for that shop for about 8 years. That shop, when I started working there, started as a more of a customization shop, not a full build shop. And then I went to a show, like a local show down here. It was like a World Wheel show, ISCA show, and they had a bunch of cool stuff set up in the corner. Everything that had their sticker on it was like my style of vehicle. So I went there and worked there, and that place turned into kind of one of the biggest names in industry from '05 to 2010 or so, and it kind of folded there. Um, and that's we had a lot of young guys there that kind of worked together, and actually a lot of guys now that I'm friends with all have their own shops that all kind of stemmed from that place. Um,
What were you doing at that shop?
Anything, everything, and everything. It started doing drop kits, and then we started getting into bagging vehicles. So it was bagging mini trucks, bagging full size trucks, and then we kind of morphed into doing more like full builds, like custom builds and stuff like that. We took on a couple projects that were orphans from other shops that were like at the time were like amazing to me because they were like full chassis, like magazine cars that you had like. I never thought I'd be working on it in my lifetime.
Back then, a full chassis vehicle was massive because there wasn't the parts that you can get now.
Absolutely, yeah.
All these companies.
Yeah, this was. I mean, like I said, this was '04, '05. These they had like Art Morrison chassis under them.
He was that was the staple for a while.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a '56 Oldsmobile. It was probably one of the first cars I worked on. And again, it had started another shop. It was for the Terzich family, which if you know them, they're more into the hot rod scene, but they've done a ton of high end builds. Both that was Mike's car. Denny has had a ton of stuff, and that was the first real high end hot rod I had worked on. Um, and like I said, it was a full Art Morrison chassis. It was laid flat on the ground, rocker on the ground, 20s and 22s, like full custom fab floor and everything. And we had got it basically painted and kind of did the assembly from there. And once we started doing that, the shop just grew exponentially, and it was anything from doing floors, firewalls, engine bays to doing final assembly, a little bit of everything. I mean, we did if we had to do it. We didn't do paint body in house. We didn't do interior in house, but we did everything from start to finish. As far as that goes, it grew. I mean, from probably having 5 guys to having I think there was 25 guys at one point in time.
So is that where you dialed in your metal work
Yeah,
skills?
I think so. I mean, that's where I had the opportunity to do so. I mean, I worked with a lot of guys that none of us had a ton of experience, but we all pushed each other probably to do a little bit better, or bounce ideas back and forth and everything like that. Yeah, that was definitely where I got to like learn a lot and really go from like doing a 90 break to doing a little bit of shaping and doing more extreme stuff. Yeah.
So where did you go after you left that shop?
So after that shop had gotten pretty rough and eventually had closed down. I went to work on motorcycles actually. So
Which
um,
at that time were all the rage. Everybody had to have a
yeah,
custom motorcycle.
yeah. I mean, that was I switched. that was probably towards the end of the chopper era into moving into the bagger area. So I went to work for a customer that was at that other shop, and we did some pretty high end baggers that were in like Easy Rider magazine and stuff like not. I guess not baggers, but um, one was on Easy Rider magazine. It was like a bobber, and then there was another one that was like a full custom bagger that was all sheet metal. It was back before like the huge stretch bag phase and everything was fabbed on it. It was a
So,
pretty
so
wild.
going from the custom car world to the bike world as a car guy started as a mini trucker, how was that transition?
So yeah, so I thought motorcycles are always easier, but you can always see both sides of the motorcycle at the same time almost. So a car, you can't always see everything at the same time. A motorcycle, you can see almost everything, and that's a lot to like make them look clean and symmetrical, and make two pieces the same side to side. Like it's a lot different. Packaging is a lot different, but it was cool. It was definitely a different experience for sure.
Did did you have to, I guess, relearn certain aspects because you're working on a smaller package versus a big fender or a hood or something?
Yeah, you definitely. I mean, throughout the whole thing, you're always learning to think farther ahead. And I think with the motorcycle stuff, you got to think even farther ahead because you have to put everything has to go there somewhere. So everything has to have a home, and you can't just like you have to plan a little bit farther ahead. I think as far as that goes.
Now, have you personally ever been into the motorcycle thing, or is that just a work and you were done?
I never had a motorcycle. I had like a Road King at one point in time that I started doing like a 23 stretch neck deal on it, and then that was it. I never had any. I've done like stretch necks and gas tanks and stuff for some other friends, but that ran its course. Customer also or guy I went to work for, we were also doing some high end like early 30s cars, like traditional style cars. So we're doing that as well. So it was mixed in with both cars and motorcycles, but I haven't done anything with motorcycles since then. That's a different game that I'm not in.
And how long did you say you were there?
I don't know, probably 5 years, I think.
Okay, so still a
So
pretty good stint.
yeah. So did that for 5 years, and then I got the crazy idea to open up a shop another with a partner. Um, I don't. That was probably around 2010, I would say. So opportunity came about to open up another shop, or open my own shop, I guess. So I transitioned into doing my own thing full time, and that was the era that we built the two-tone brown square body for Jeff Walker. So that around that era, and then that was the Boss F100 era. Two trucks ended up being on Street Trucks cover, run right after another. I think it was
Now
2015.
which two tone brown one
So it
was
was
was that the one they bent the hood at Meekum?
no, that was the one that it's later down the road the hood blew open and across the windshield. One of the
Oh, and they
customers did
fixed
that.
it.
Yeah, and they fixed it. So it was like it was a Ford color. So it was
I want to say that's the one I had a local guy actually buy it, and then he's the one. If that, I'm thinking the one that sold it at Meekum, and it was two
yeah,
hundred or something.
yep. It's that one. It is
Yeah,
that
a
one. Yeah,
local guy had
it
it
was
for a
called
minute.
it was the plate on it was Lethal CX, and it was kind of called the Lethal truck basically.
Ton of sheet metal under the hood.
Yeah. We did a ton of bumper work, crazy engine bay on it, bunch of sheet metal work under the hood. It was Porterbuilt stuff before full chassis were available.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it is in North Carolina in a collection. I think now.
I know the guy that had it. I remember, people's like, "Oh my gosh, how did he have that truck that sold for?" Because I think that was probably one of the first C10s that really went crazy in price.
Yeah, and that had actually changed hands probably 5 or 6 times since the initial build. Yeah, it's a timeless truck, and I think a timeless truck will always do well in the right audience.
So
Um,
what was the name of that shop that you started?
so the name of that shop was High Octane Hot Rods. Was the name of that shop, and it's
Okay,
still the same shop I'm in now. Just I have no it's no partnership now.
okay.
So, and then, it was the two tone square body. And then we did a 73 F100 that was called the Boss F100. Um, all red, black bumpers, kind of the same deal, 2415, laid flat on the ground, Vortec Coyote. We debuted it at SEMA at the Vortec booth, I think in 2014, I believe.
Was that your first SEMA build?
That was my first as a shop owner, yes, not as like a
Employee.
employee. Yeah, yeah. As a shop owner, yeah, that was. We did that truck in about 3 months, and it was SEMA crunched and SEMA done. It was.
So it didn't run. Probably didn't have brake fluid in it.
It did not run. No, we pushed it in and pushed it out. Which it looked good. It looked done, but it was not done.
For people that don't build SEMA vehicles, the term SEMA done is something that we are all way too familiar with.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, as a young shop owner, it was a great opportunity, but it was also not a great decision. I mean, it got us a ton of exposure. That truck was huge, but it was all over the place. But it wasn't. It was very rushed. I don't think the quality suffered, but it just we never took the time to dial it in. I guess in the end,
Yeah.
but it had a presence for sure. But and probably put us on the map. Those two trucks with the crazy engine bay sheet metal definitely opened up a lot of people's eyes to what we could do, for sure.
I know saying SEMA done is about like saying TV done, because all these overhauling and all that. Oh, like
Yeah,
they're done, and like then they show them to the people. What they don't show you is that they put them back in the shop for another
yeah.
few weeks to dial them in.
The 3 months it takes to dial them in, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something. As more experience comes, I've definitely been more focused on building more dialed vehicles for the customer and not just cars that look good. That's an industry is definitely shifting that way as well. I feel.
Yep.
It's more not cars that cruise or fairgrounds. It's cars that can do 1,000-mile road tours or something like that. It's people
I was
actually.
actually I was listening to Roaster Shop guys on their podcast earlier today, and they were talking about how that it's gone from like everybody's after the Riddler or that top of awards to where
Yeah,
now it's like, well, I don't want something that's just going to look pretty in a trailer. I want something that's I can drive to the show.
yeah, absolutely. Form and function is definitely higher on customers' priority now. They want to be able to use what they're spending money on, and there's still the crazy high end builds, and there always will be. But the more driver quality stuff, and as the aftermarket comes around, it makes it easier for us to do as well.
Well, that's like with the Blazer. My goal is to, after SEMA, stay out there, then go to Dino's, and then drive it back home from Dino's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That's what they're for, man. That's if you can get them shaken down enough. I mean, some people get lucky and don't shake them down at all and make it. But after a few months, you can get them pretty dialed in for sure.
Well, it's like we're going to try to. The goal is to get it done and drive, and I'm just going to leave it in Vegas and let my builder put 1,000 miles or so on
Right.
it. I'd
Yeah.
rather I'd rather a plug come loose 20 minutes from his house and him roll back at home than me being like Oklahoma somewhere on the way home.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And you have to put the time in to dial them in. It's just part of it. And sometimes they fight you tooth and nail, and sometimes they're fairly easy. But that's just something you got to do. You have to dive into it and figure out what's wrong and fix it, no matter what it takes. Usually.
So when you first started your own shop with a partner, uh, you left and went somewhere else after that, right?
I did, yeah. So I kept the
You just
same
shut,
building.
did
Yeah.
you just shut the shop down or just
Uh,
go
I
separate
I
ways?
I dialed it back. So I dialed it back to where I've always had customers that have been repeat customers, so they understood what was going on and just dialed everything back. I just got in over my head with everything really.
Yeah.
The partner I had kind of wasn't pulling his own weight and would rather be at the bar and not at work. Like it was just a bad situation. So we cut ties there, and I still kept the shop. The equipment, 90% of the equipment was mine. So I quit there and went to work. I worked 4 10s at one place and then came to my own shop nights and weekends, basically. So I was still doing the side hustle, still doing my own deal, just not full time. So I went to work for a shop called Customs by Kilcarry, which was actually a lot of guys from the RPM shop that had a body shop backing basically. So it was all the guys I worked with before, for the most part, without the exception of a few, with better management and better financial you know backing. And we did some high end vehicles there. Couple more SEMA builds: a '69 Mustang or '68 Mustang and a '56 Pontiac. Some drivers. We did a bunch of stuff there. I think I worked there for another 4 or 5 years, I believe.
Now that Pontiac was the convertible, right?
Correct. Yeah. 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 That thing's
So
pretty wild. Yeah.
that was 18.
I believe so. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So I remember that car because in 18, I didn't build a SEMA build, but I went, as I say, shopping,
Yeah.
ideas and color combos. That car with the bronze, that color interior that it had with the blue, that 100% set me on the path for my next SEMA build. I knew I wanted a Ram, and I wanted the blue, I wanted the bronze. That's what I wanted. Well, then I found out I couldn't get the brown interior with the blue because it was two different packages, and I was
Right.
like, "That's the same assembly line. Why can you not put it together like that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wound up doing the maroon, but that Pontiac actually led me towards that bronze and brown
Well,
interior.
that's awesome. That's yeah. That was I was definitely a big part. I'm not. I was definitely a big part of the brown, the blue, and the bronze for sure. The blue was off of so that shop we worked at. We had our own section of it, but it was a high end production body shop. So they did a lot of BMW, Mercedes. So that color that was on that car was I believe a BMW color that was on that car.
Okay.
And then the brown, I think actually that same car had a brown gut in it too. So we kind of leaned with that.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge bronze wheel guy for whatever
Me too.
reason. Just because black wheels has a place, but it's not for me. So
As a photographer, I hate a black wheel. You
oh,
cannot
right,
get a black wheel to come out in a picture.
right, exactly, yeah. So we had Evod machine those wheels, and we ended up one of the guys in the body shop mixed that color. We went back and forth, and ended up coming up with that color. So yeah, I left as that car was in the body shop entering final assembly. I left that shop when that happened. Um, we all had a huge part in it. EJ, has his own shop now. It's called Craftworks Fab, and I did a ton of metal work on that car. That car was probably one of the most overtop cars I've ever worked on. All in its entirety. Um, there's so much change on that car that we started with a very nice car, but there was so much change on that car that you'd have to know those cars to know. Um, and then one-off machining and stuff like that. It's definitely a pretty one that's high up there in my I guess my resume of you know ones that I think will withstand the test of time and yeah,
I remember I went back multiple times that week at SEMA, just like because I'd look, be like, well, I kind of like this, kind of like that. It's like, all right, let's go back and look at this Pontiac again. It was the satin under the hood that was the
yeah,
same color as the paint. Like that was a huge, like, I guess, push to what I did because my Ram, I wound up doing the satin sheet metal under the hood, and
yeah,
it had the brown interior.
right.
Even though it wasn't a blue that I wanted, it's still that one car made such an impression on me. I'm like, all right, this is what I have to have.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I'm a big fan of satin engine bays. I always have been. The right color in satin, even the outside color, it changes so much when it's satin color. It just adds a whole nother dimension of like it's not a sea of shininess usually.
They're not as easy to clean, but
Right, right, yeah, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. Yeah, it was. I had a ton of influence in that car. The customer was very um, basically if we threw it at him, he said yes. Basically, any idea, he never shot it down. So that was it was awesome. It turned out to be a very very awesome car.
well, it's like my original plan with the Blazers do satin under the hood. I'm like, well, if I'm going to have glossed over rust on the outside, I want the engine bay just to be gloss and pretty and new
Right,
since the outside's old. So that took away from me doing the satin under the hood. But I mean, that's the only thing that took away from me doing satin under the hood. Is
right,
like,
right.
I want to open the hood and be like, this is all brand new, pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
You shut
We always try to do. a little bit. We try to mix both in sometimes. I mean, on an ideal engine bay, we try to do both. The satin, try to do a break somewhere where you do the satin and the gloss. So it's not all everything, but it's like if you're not doing a full blown engine bay, it's kind of hard to do that. Sometimes you can do the engine flat and the engine bay gloss, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Just play with the textures of it, and it has a huge effect.
So now you said you'd learn quite a bit more working for these shops than Wyotech.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, yeah. I
Do you
mean,
think?
Wyotech just gives you the. It's like any other school. I mean, you get what you put it. Whatever you put in, you get out. But the stuff I do use today to make stuff is nowhere near what I was taught. You know, it's you kind of just develop your own processes of doing things. You don't always have the high end equipment to do everything, so you got to figure out the difficult way to do it, or the way to do it with what you have. Yeah, so yeah, what I do today is probably 2% of it is was Wyotech education. I think that just kind of got the ball rolling, basically.
So looking back, do you wish you just would have gone into a shop working with somebody right off, or did you have to have that MTI or the Wyotech to step into that?
I think at the time I had to have. I mean, I with the S10 and everything, maybe I could have gotten in the shop, but I think the Wyotech education definitely helped some to some degree. I mean, as a shop owner now, I don't like if you are into it. I don't. The education doesn't matter to me. I mean, if you have the experience or you've done it before, you're willing to learn. That doesn't matter to me. But I think for me at the time, I think it was the exposure wasn't as great. I think to with social media and everything.
Yeah.
Um, I think it was necessary to have that.
So what all are you doing now? Because I guess when you left that shop, which I guess would have been towards the middle of 18, and you said you went back on your own.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
Is that when you started Hart Fab, or did you already have that before?
That's when I started. I mean, like I said, I still had I still had it part time. It was always here part time. I was always doing stuff part time on the side. That's when the parts business kind of showed its head. There is kind of when I would build an engine bay. I think the first one that kind of kicked it off was I did an engine bay for another SEMA build. It was a friend of mine's truck. It ended up being it was called the Shadow. It was a flat orange truck, black engine bay. It was in the Resto Mod Air booth. I believe that was 18 or 19. Um, and I did a set of inner fenders for that was dialed back more so from like what I would do in the full blown like heavy custom stuff, something that could be reproduced. And I started doing that, and I had a ton of people that wanted to buy it. So that was kind of what launched the parts business, was seeing the need for people that wanted that custom one-off look in the engine bays. The bag C10s were new, but were growing, gaining popularity. And I had an S10 or a C10, so I knew what I needed to know about the C10s, and that was back when Porterbuilt was basically the only game when I probably in 17 or 18 that was they're probably only the only one in the game, or one of the only ones in the game I should say.
Yeah.
So that's I saw the demand picking up for the parts, and I started adding more years and more options, and that grew to a point to where at one point in time Jeremy at Roaster Shop messaged me and said, how many of these could you build me a month if we put them in our catalog? So they were working on doing like a
Wow.
parts catalog, and that was one of the things that pushed me over the edge and said, hey, I need to go this direction and pursue this. So that's kind of what launched the parts business, and then still doing the builds on the side, or not on the side, but at the same time. The parts business was to supplement the builds and the custom stuff, and it's basically morphed into taking over. So it's
So does the roaster shop sell your tubs on their catalog?
so that never came to fruition. I mean, I have done parts for them, but they were, I guess, doing their own, trying to do like a catalog mail order business, and I guess decided against it. So, um,
Gotcha.
but I have done parts for them. We have done a ton of roaster shop stuff. I mean, I've known those guys since back in 05, 08. So we've had every rendition of their chassis in some way, shape, or form, from the very early stuff where they're using the Detroit speed stuff to up to the Indy truck has the latest and greatest low pro chassis under it. So I've seen their evolution and known those guys and worked with them throughout the years.
So that when you did that first set for that truck, I guess you didn't go into it making a template. You made it and then probably had to do another set to figure out what
Yeah,
kind of template you needed.
yeah. I mean, I've always had. You always build templates, or I always start with templates at least, because one side you always transfer to the other side. So I always had the templates. I just learned a little bit more as far as what I needed to do for the general public to put them in, basically. Just taking feedback from everybody else. So I had the templates. When I started, I cut every inner fender by hand on the bandsaw. So
Wow.
I didn't have a plasma table until 18 or 19, I think. So every inner fender we would cut them on the bandsaw by hand, lay them out the template out, cut them by hand, back weld them together, grind them so they were a matching pair, cut them back apart, and then lay out all the bead rolls by hand. We've came a long way from that, but that's how everyone started. I mean, that's when we were doing 5 a month instead of 60 a month. So it's
Well, you said use the tools you have, or do it the hard way just to make it.
yeah, no, absolutely, and that's how we got it. I mean, that was once we had the capital to invest in. I got a used plasma table, bought a used plasma table, and I had no idea how to do CAD or use a plasma table or anything. So learned that. Um,
YouTube.
yeah, and that was, I mean, I guess, yeah, that was even probably early. Not, I wouldn't say early YouTube, but yeah, that was, that was a lot of reading. That was a lot of like trial and error for sure. And then 2 years ago, we just got a new 5x10 table. So it's
Nice.
yeah, so it's evolution and just doing the best you can with what you have. Really, I mean, you don't have to have the best of everything.
So is that the bulk of what Hart Fab is inner fender wells?
Yeah, it's, I mean, kind of like what your truck is. We've kind of developed almost full packages for everything. We have the firewalls, inner fenders, the braces, the splash panels, the rear tubs. We have about, I think, about 45 different items now. But then
Okay.
if you break that down into the bead rolls patterns, we have different bead roll patterns, so that doubles it. But yeah, we started out. Everybody wants, I guess, that matching look. That they want the full custom look, and we can give you the full custom look with a little bit of effort on your part. For under $2,000, basically.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of bang for the buck if you're willing to put in a little bit of effort. So
So what's your number one selling vehicle for wheel tubs?
it's between square body and 6772. So like the 6772s are always, that was the second version we made. 6772 22-inch ones, the taller ones we make. And then probably actually the square body mile drop, like, because anything with like a 5.7 drop, your Blazer is probably lower than the average truck, obviously.
Yeah. We're a little right under 5 inches on the frame, front to
Yeah,
back.
no, that's perfect. I mean, that's where I would want it at. For
That's the right height for an air ride vehicle. So
exactly, yeah. But yeah, we do a ton of the static drop ones, is what I call them. Kind of the it's a little bit lower between the ones you got, or a little bit not as much drop as what you got. And then the Slam 22s, but the 55 59s, we're the only ones that have 55 59 inner fenders. So we do end up doing a ton of those. I never realized those trucks are so popular.
those
So
are the tall ones that stick up over the fenders, right?
those are the 60 to 66, the tall ones that stick over the fenders. So we probably actually do the least of those, which that was the first thing we started with, but we probably do the least of those now.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it
There's
just
some
that body style's not as dominant as it was?
maybe, yeah. The Delmo style ones. I won't like. I'm big on not copying other people's stuff for the
Yeah.
most part. So the Delmo ones to some people look better. The way they're shaped, and it's hard to do. There's not really a lot you can do without reinventing the wheel there. So it just depends. Some people like the different look, but it seems to be age brackets and stuff like that. Different age brackets like different trucks, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of weird, and they all come and go in phases. I mean, we'll do 560 to 66s in 1 month, and then go a month with none of them. So it really depends on the exposure they get and just what's happening at the time.
So how many employees do you have right now?
Right now, I have 0 full time employees, so just me. I had a guy for about 3 years that got really good at building inner fenders and decided that wasn't what he wanted to do anymore. I have another guy hired that's going to start in about 2 weeks. So I have my wife answers the phones, does the office stuff in between doing her J job. And then I have a part time guy that comes in and does shipping and machining. He does both. And another,
Odd combo.
yeah. And then another part time guy that's an actually retired guy that is doing like the mechanical stuff. So
Gotcha.
so as of now, it's just I have 2 part time employees, and then I'm full time right now.
Are you working on any other full projects, or are you 100% focused on the parts?
We have some full projects that get very they kind of get unfortunately they get neglected, but we do have some full projects that we're working on. We have a 64 Impala and 3 OBS trucks actually.
So when you first started doing your wheel tubs, what made you do the design you did? Is it just you made it work on the first one and you knew it would work on more?
Yeah, I mean you kind of make it. I don't want to say universal fit. It's you make it work on the first one. You know your wheel and tire size, like overall diameter, is a big thing. It's once you have a little bit of education on that, um, you do that. Yeah, it was just kind of making them more universal, so they'd work across different suspension manufacturers and then different tire sizes, and something that was easy for other people to put in. That's they don't have to have the same skill level as I have, I guess. Um,
How often do you go through and tweak your designs?
Uh,
Or
we're, we're always we're always making adjustments. I mean, some are probably a little overdue now, but we're always taking feedback from builders or installers or everybody like that says, "Hey, if you could do this better here." We've altered some of the side panels. And throughout building them, we've altered the way we build them too, so that the final product is better.
yeah.
But we're always trying to make adjustments based on other people's feedback and and going from there. I mean, it's the not so much the bead patterns, but the actual fit, or where they could use a little bit more clearance or another bracket or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I know the day they come in, actually the day that I think they come in a couple days before I flew out to Vegas, pulled them out of the box, and I was like, there was so much packing. Like you're definitely not worried about anything happening in shipping. Like they're packed when they show up.
I mean, it still happens though, man. I mean, knock on wood. I mean, we only get a handful a year, which is good. But I mean, I try to go above like and beyond. There's no good way to do it. I mean, you're putting a round thing in a square box, so and they're heavy, so you have to make it so they can be dropped, unfortunately. But
Well, I know I set them out in the driveway and did a couple photos and quick little video and stuff of them. Probably wasn't out there maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes. And I guess I wasn't thinking that the Vegas sun's a little different than North Carolina sun. When
yeah, yeah,
blister two of my fingers and my builder's
that's
like, yeah, this is Vegas. You use gloves when you pick up bare
yeah,
metal.
yeah,
I was like, they were just there for 10 minutes and it's still in the morning. He goes, yep, that's Vegas. You don't do that.
yeah.
So, but yeah, we got all that stuff mocked up. The first time we set him in, I was just like, "Yep, this is what I needed." And then once he finished the firewall, I'm like, "Yep, this makes that even better." So,
Yeah. Doing the firewalls, like the firewall and the inner fender is really, I mean, it's a lot of work to do the firewalls, but it really, in my opinion, brings it all together. It just cleans everything up and gives it that same look. And
and I guess you have options for customers if they just want to do the firewall or they
correct.
just want
Yep.
to do like you can mix and match what
Yeah.
you're selling.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will buy the firewall first and then do the inner fenders later and add it as they go. Wherever they're at in the build. Some people will order an entire truck worth in one order.
Yeah.
It just depends on their budget and where they are in the build. So it's pretty flexible. Um, yeah, I know you were asking kind of about the front radiator panel. It's definitely something I want to do. It's just getting a truck to do it or getting a core support to do it. But I think we can definitely do something with that. And that's probably the next biggest thing that we're going to move into is everybody wants a full length radiator cover, like for every year, and they look so clean. But I don't. It's very difficult to make everything work, with the different radiators and hood clearance and everything like that. But
Yeah, you said something that the with the square bodies, there's a hood clearance issue.
yeah, usually you got to like cut the upper lip off of it. They're very tight because where the way those core support's made, the hood has like a inner structure that tucks right into that factory core support. So anything that's in front of it is tight. But I mean, I think we can definitely do something there.
So you said you have how many different vehicles worth of patterns out?
So 55 to 98. So six, five, six.
Okay. How many sets of tubs you generally knock out a week per se?
It depends. I mean, with two guys, we can do 12 to 14. Me myself, it's 6 to 7. So it just depends, and that's not all. I mean, a lot of it's, again, we do them the orders as they come through. So some of it'll be the firewalls with it. So it all varies on time frame wise. So we've got it. I mean, it still takes time, but we've got it about twice as fast as it used to be when I,
So
when
you
I
don't
first
keep a
started.
lot of inventory in stock on that.
Right now we do everything to order. So I keep like the firewall blanks and everything, and that's something that I'm looking to maybe shift to in the future is pause the orders and try to build up some inventory. Because we've never, again, I started just doing them as they came in. So it was 5 a month or whatever. And that it's just from there, it's grown exponentially. And at no point have we ever been caught up, unfortunately. And fortunately, everybody's been very patient. If you understand, you get it, and I appreciate it. But it would be nice to have more in stock or have some stuff in stock. I mean, we have some of the smaller items in stock, but you
Well,
know,
if you can't wait that couple weeks, whatever, a few weeks, whatever it is, what about these people trying to order a roaster shop chassis that it's how many months out? Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
wait a
yeah, it's build planning. I mean, you understand it. I mean, you had all your parts starting to come before you even started anything. But some people can't do that based on budget and everything like that. I mean, what gets me the most is when it's a shop and they know there's usually some form of lead time, but I get how it goes sometimes. But yeah, it's if you plan ahead, you can be prepared. But um, and we try to be very upfront with our lead times. We try to tell everybody, what they're looking at when they order. Not surprise anybody, but it happens sometimes.
Well, it's like you got to have part A to work with part B
Yeah,
before you do part C. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's a lot of, and I didn't realize it till we tore this Blazer apart. There's so many put together, take apart, put together, take apart. I'm like, we're just going to wear these bolts out, just
yeah,
trying to build this thing.
yeah. Absolutely. I don't think a lot of the general public realizes how much mock-up goes into the higher end builds, or even if you're building something for yourself, because it's just everything has to work together at the end. So it is, yeah. It's put together, take apart, put together, take apart, and then some of these cars that we did, like that Pontiac. When you tear them down for paint, basically, like the pile of parts that's beside the vehicle that aren't like are going to powder coat or chrome or anything like that, like it's overwhelming. Like to see the amount of one-off parts, brackets, and stuff like that. That's like it's all time, but it's just when you stack it all up there beside the car and not on the car, it's surprising how much goes into it.
So, what is the future for Hart Fab? Other than you said there's a couple other items you kind of want to add. Is there any other avenue you want to develop or dive into?
I think cars or maybe even Ford trucks for sure on the parts business side of it. Um,
You're just GM now.
yeah, just GM now. Yeah, yeah, probably into the cars. I've had a lot of people ask about the Ford truck stuff, um, 63 to 66 and 67, 72 Ford stuff.
Okay.
The Impalas, the X-Ring car stuff. I had a lot of people ask about that. That's something definitely in the future. We're actually moving some of our firewalls and stuff to a stamping process. So instead of doing the bead rolling on the firewalls, probably in a month and a half, we'll have our first run of them. But the firewalls will be stamped, so it's a more perfect piece. It's no bead rolling mess up or anything like that. They'll be a little bit deeper, 16 gauge, so they'll be thicker materials. So it'll be closer to what a stock one would be, and then again we'll have those in stock, so it won't be like you won't be waiting for those. So probably for us, moving towards stamping more products versus hand making everything is probably the biggest push we're going for right now. We had moved our pockets, like our battery pockets that we make. We started getting those stamped. So we used to make those out of three pieces. So we have like we did the battery pockets for that has like the charging terminals and the battery switch in it, and then we have one with like the air coupler in it. So we used to make those all out of three separate pieces. Weld, bend, blend everything, and they would take 3 to 4 hours to do one of them. So we invested in getting the tooling made and everything, and have those stamps. So we actually have, I think, 200 or 300 of those in stock right now, on the battery pockets, and they're stamped, and they're nicer than we could ever making them by hand, to be honest.
Now, thinking of the stamping stuff, with you being a metal fabricator per se, you've seen all this the new technology where they can, you know, stamp fenders and stuff like. Well, who was it where they had a like the top 10 guys or whatever get together and build that one car in like
Yeah.
a week or whatever?
Yep. Yeah.
How is your what is your feel on being able to press parts like that versus hand dolly and all that stuff?
I think it just elevates what you can do. I mean, I think it's just taking advantage. It's faster. It still costs money, but at the end of the day, it's saving customers money. It's more efficient. It's efficiency, and as a shop owner, that's efficiency is the name of the game. You want to do the most you can with the least amount of money, not the least amount of money, but you
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
be efficient with the customer's money. So if you can, instead of spending, I mean, I think they built that car basically in bulk in a week. I mean, they went from just having a buck to a full blown like one off car in a week. I mean, there was a ton of man hours, but
yeah.
that would take probably a year or years for somebody to make by hand. So I think it's awesome. I mean, I think it's going to be a while before the average shop could have a lot of take advantage of that. But even with the 3D printing and everything like that, I mean, it's the technology is here whether you like it or not. So I mean, I think you should take advantage of it for sure.
Well, it's like people like Chris down at MTI. I mean, the way they cut all these interior stuff, like 3D scanning and then printing all that stuff and cutting it, like you couldn't have done that 20 years ago.
No, and it's at the end of the day, it's a better product than you could ever make by hand. I mean, it's just the way everything goes together. I mean, it's the forethought on it is insane. The interiors those guys are doing are nuts. I mean, it's like you said, it's 10, 20 years ago. You couldn't even imagine something like that. It was,
Yep,
you know,
fiberglassing and
yeah, yeah. It was chipboard and fiberglass and CA glue and whatever it took. And I mean, there's still good. There's still craftsmanship to it, in my opinion.
yeah.
It's not like the computers are taking over. I think it's applying it a different way.
That's like they're making me a set of door panels and kick panels for the Blazer.
Okay, awesome.
So that's just the he's like, yeah, I'll cut them out in a couple of weeks, and it's crazy that you can make the same parts over and over. He can make the same parts over and over. That, like you said, 20 years ago, that wasn't a thing. To get the same part twice would have been
Yeah, yeah.
hard.
They would. I mean, they would have been taking a door panel and cutting it apart and fiberglassing it. They would have needed the door panel to start with. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's a better part for the customer, and it's a better product in the end, and it's more cost effective for everybody. Yeah.
Well, with you doing all the parts and then still working on a few vehicles and stuff, do you have anything of your own? I know you mentioned a C10. What do you
Uh,
have to play with?
yeah, I have a 71 C10 that I've had since high school. It's Porter built stuff. I built it back in '08. 20s and 22s Porter built big block. It's currently torn apart. My son and everybody else is on me to get it back together. Um, I have a
This means to you that listen to this podcast, you need to get with Josh and say that truck finished.
yeah, and it does honestly isn't going to take much to get it back together. Um, and like I said, I built it back in '08, and that was around like the 6772 truck forum days. I mean, that was big on that when everybody had, there wasn't Instagram, so everybody had a build thread going on the 6772 forum. I have a 61 Impala patina car, flat roof car, LS swapped TKX 5 speed 9 inch. It's kind of that's what I've been driving lately. And then I have a 93 OBS that's like my daily beater truck.
Yeah.
Drop step side. So no big project. Oh, no big projects for me. I've the '64 Suburban. I've had it forever. It's actually shortened into a Blazer wheelbase, so it's a like
Wow.
carry all. Some dudes in California actually started it, and I bought it off Roger from Ironworks, Roger Lee. He had it, and I bought it from him, and I tore it apart to the frame down and got the frame sandblasted, and I never did anything else with it. And it kind of sits in the back of the shop, and everybody asked me about it. So it's customer stuff, has a priority. I feel bad doing. I do a little bit of my own stuff, but I feel bad working on my own stuff when customers are patiently waiting.
Well, I know you hit a few shows. What's your show schedule look like this year?
So the only show we vend at is Dino's. That's the only show we vend at. We usually do like Good Guys Columbus, and that's about as far as I try to keep as much time as I can in the shop. But we do. Last year we drove out to Dino's. The year before we flew out to Dino's and shipped everything. Last
Which
year
is easier?
it is easier, but
Which one's easier, the driving or the shipping?
the ship. I mean, we ship every day. It wasn't a problem, but it's the amount we could take with us. We took, I think, 20 sets, 15 or 20 sets to Dino's, and came home with one.
Wow.
Yeah. The year before, I think we shipped 6 or 7 sets, and they were sold. They got sold. So we can bring a lot more product if we come out. So it's longer on the travel time.
You doing Dino's again this year?
We are, yeah, yep. We just finalized everything for that. I think yesterday, actually.
Nice. I know that's where we'd met. Me and Adam was driving back from Dino's, and
Yep,
I
yeah,
pulled in. Your wife leaned in. She goes, "Is this hotel okay? Is this is it clean?" And I'm like, "I've stayed here twice before, so."
yeah. No, it worked out good. It was well, we were driving, and I was tapped out, and I told her like to find somewhere. I'm like, just find somewhere. We're near a city. Just find somewhere that's not bad, and it worked out good. So
Well, when you're in that Albuquerque area, there might be a few places that are pretty bad.
yeah, yeah. You never know on the road, man. It's nuts. It seems
I
like
know we stopped. Me and my wife had stopped in 23 coming back from SEMA. Went to a hotel in Albuquerque, pulled in, and it had like barbed wire around a fence around the Holiday Inn Express. I'm like, okay, this don't sound good. And I pulled in. I'm in the truck I built, and we walk in. Lady's like, oh yeah, we're sold out. And she's like, is that what y'all are driving? I was like, yeah. She goes, yeah. I just don't know if I'd stay here anyway. And I'm like, excuse me, it's a nice hotel. And she goes, yeah, we've had issues. She goes, go down and go to this other hotel, which is the one that we ran into you guys at.
okay.
So, but
Yeah, yeah. It's a gamble when you're on the road, man. You never know.
yep,
We
there's
always
a lot of Yelp and reviews. We did that run into LST last year. We got so far, it's like, all right, let's find a place to stop. And one of my buddies was in the back seat Googling. He's like, well, this is like the third highest crime rate in the country. He goes, I don't think we're stopping here. And like the next city, he goes, well, this is fourth highest crime rate. He's like, so let's just go on to Texas and be done with it.
yeah. Yeah, I think we all have sketchy hotel stories at some point for sure.
I mean, back in the day, that was normal. We used to pile into those hotels and not think twice about
It was like a badge of honor, I think. But as you get older, you just want comfort, comfort and security.
it and clean.
Yeah,
I've stayed in the ones the smoke detector hanging from the ceiling. There's a stain. You don't know if it's blood or
right.
if it's dirt. Like you don't question it. So, but well, tell people how they find you and can get up with you to order parts or to see what all you're building.
So the website is hart-fab.com, and then Instagram, Facebook is just Hart Fab. On both of those, we're more active probably on Instagram than Facebook. I'm not great at social media. I actually probably need to be better at that. But yeah, it's yeah. You can call, email, DM us. We usually happy to help with any questions you have.
You've definitely helped with mine. Like I said, when we were trying to get that right height for for
Yeah,
what we were doing, you suggested, to go the lower stuff. And I'm glad we did because, gave us the clearance we needed and we don't
yeah,
have to worry
yeah.
about
I mean, we have a pretty we have a good amount of them out there, so there's a good chance that somebody's done that setup before.
it. Yeah.
We can definitely get you pointed in the right direction. So if it's a major suspension manufacturer and you can give us the right information, we can usually get you set up pretty good right off the hit.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was good chatting with you.
No
And,
problem, man.
definitely appreciate the support on this year's build.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.